Tuna sashimi. 3, 2, 1.
Hello guys, Tunia back again. Well, this week I'm going to do another PS2 game this week, and this is going to be Sega Ages, Volume 33. This is the Fantasy Zone Complete Collection. This is a collection of pretty much all the Fantasy Zone games, ranging from the arcade ones to the home console versions. It does miss out the NES versions, but you know, it's a Sega collection, I suppose. What you say? The NES versions are good as well. But anyway, so we'll start this up. I say this collection was made by M2, so pretty much you know that this is going to be damn good if it was made by them, and it is very, very good indeed. So what we'll start with is you basically on this game you've got Fantasy Zone 2, which is the arcade version of the Master System original. It got ported basically to the arcade. It was literally probably about 11 years later after the Master. No, probably less than that actually. I think the original came out in 1987. And when did Fantasy Zone 2 come out? I'm not sure when Fantasy Zone 2 came out. It was probably about a year or so later. But anyway, they ported Fantasy Zone 2 to the arcades, which is probably about 10 years after it came out on the Master System. And it's a really nice version in the arcade. And as far as I know, this is the only home release of that game on anything. And it is pretty much arcade perfect. And the second option you got is the classic Fantasy Zone game. So as you can see there, you got the original arcade Fantasy Zone from 1987. You got that also includes a load of other stuff, which I'll go through when I start this up. I do apologise if the screen flicks off and flicks back on. I will try and edit that out the best I can. But this collection, it can change resolutions and stuff. So let's go to the original System 16. Right then, so this is the arcade game, which is pretty much came out. It's based on the original Master System version, but this is a lot better than the Master System version. Right, first thing I'm going to go into the options. In here, when you pick a game, you get the options to change machine. So you've got the original System 16 arcade board, and you've got the Mark II version, which is pretty much the Japanese Master System, and you've got the British Master System version on here. So you can basically change room on the fly. I did have to do a bit of the display settings. The display settings for these games, you can soften the image off to make it look a little bit soft if you like that thing. The intensity changes the brightness of the screen, and each game has got a wealth of display modes. It's originally displays in 480i, but you can pick true 240p. 480p, or can have 480p scan lines to this. Some games do have a little bit of extra resolutions, but it's pretty amazing that M2 chucked all these resolution changes in. But we're going to leave it in 240p because it looks pretty damn sweet. What you can do as well, you can change the position of the screen, display, you know, all this sort of stuff. There is the options. You can set up your controller options. There's auto fire options and everything on here. You can do the difficulties, players. What else can do? Archives. On this, it doesn't have any replays on the disc, which is a little bit of a shame. But you can record your replays. So if you want to do a run on this game, you can pretty much play through the game, record it, and then save it to memory card. You can play it back. There is a sound test for all games as well, which will play the music from each one. If I go into it, the screen might go off for a second. But yeah, so you can pretty much play all the music. This game does have some pretty sweet music. 10 years after. I'm not sure if you unlock stuff as well. I'm not entirely sure. The system file, basically all the settings you could done, you can actually save it to your memory card. You've got the original credits, saying all the people from M2 who converted it and all that sort of stuff. So cancel that. You can reset the game. You can reset back to the main menu. So I'll have a quick go. I won't play it too much, but I'll have a quick go of each game to give you an idea what's actually on this collection. So let's check a credit in here. Say this, it's got auto-fire option. Auto-fire is a bit of a must really on the Fantasy Zone games. I don't know if you ever played Fantasy Zone, but it was pretty much sort of Defender rip-off really, made by Sega. Really cool, colourful game, really nice shoot 'em up. The weird thing is, I can't stand Defender. I don't know why, I've never really liked that game very much, but I love the Fantasy Zone games, which is weird because they're pretty much the same sort of thing. In the Fantasy Zone games as well, you can go into shops and you can buy weapon upgrades, you can buy speed upgrades, you can buy extra bombs because you basically got each game you've got a fire and a bomb. That's pretty much standard in the Fantasy Zone games. Yeah, and you could buy an extra life. To get that, you've got to collect the money. When you shoot these little bases, the money from bases, you've got to pick the money up and you can use that in the shops. You get money from bosses as well. So we'll see if we can get to a boss. I say Fantasy Zone 2 on the Master System. You could go for different levels. I guess when you can go to the dark, like the dark version, you've got like a light version, and the dark version of the levels. They have a slightly different look to each one of them, which is quite cool. Same music though. I'm not sure if there is any, apart from the look of each one of them, I don't think there's any particular difference between them. So the idea of the game basically is shoot all the bases. Once you've shot all the bases, you can get to the boss of the level, defeat the boss of the level, and you go on to the next level. And then you just basically fight your way through the game. Here's the first boss. Bosses in these games are always big and extravagant. Quite a tricky arcade boss he is, especially when you haven't got much in the way of speed. If you couldn't get really close to the bosses, you can usually wipe them out pretty damn quick with the auto fire. So basically you collect all the money and you get to the second level. Yeah. The Fantasy Zone games as well, I've always had pretty fantastic music. I really love the soundtrack to the Fantasy Zone games, really sort of nice and jolly. Another little fact about Fantasy Zone is Space Harrier. Space Harrier is actually in the same universe. It says welcome to the Fantasy Zone. So those games are all made in the same universe. So anyway, so that's Fantasy Zone 2, the arcade. So I'm going to press the select button. We're going to go to the Mark III version, which is the Japanese, here we go, just the Japanese Master System, and you pretty much get the Master System version. Same with the displays on this, you can have 240p, what's quite cool with the Master System versions, you can have PAL resolutions as well, so you can have 480i PAL, so basically you can have 46 PAL, and you can basically, it's got every resolution you can think of on you, which is really nice. And you see it's got the scanline option as well. Like I said, I'm not using the scanline option, but they're there if you want to use them. So you start this up, and this is the original Master System version. It's going to die then. See, there's the little warps you do to go to different levels. So if I go in the warp, it'll take me to a different one. I'm pretty sure I remember on the Master System one as well, you had to literally go into each warp to find out where each base actually was, to wipe them out. But say on the arcade one, they changed that a little bit. You haven't actually got to find each base. They're not. I don't mean that you have got to find each base, but they're not. You haven't got to find each warp hasn't got its own base. You just turn from light and dark instead of warping into a different level. I remember later on in this, there's more levels, so you have to basically go into the warps and find the bases in each warp before you get to the boss. So I've always been since the original game, especially I remember seeing the arcade years ago, and then I had this on the Master System years ago, and I've always been a massive fan of the Fantasy Zone games. Yeah, there's no more bases in this warp now, so I've got to go back to the other warp and find the bases in the other warp. Can become a little bit of a pain in the ass later on, but this is a very nice game on the Master System. Same thing as well, you've got the shops, so you can buy your power-ups and stuff in the shops. I'll buy a beam weapon if I got enough. No, I haven't got enough. I got enough for a laser? Nope. The weapons are good in this game as well. They do go up in price each time you buy one. I think they double in price. or get close to doubling in prices anyway. And they only last a certain amount of time. Every version of Fantasy Zone is exactly the same. See, this is where it can become a little bit of a pain in the butt on the Master System version, is to find each base and each warp. Can't remember what the red warp does now. Ah, you're right, warps into the boss. That's a good start with it. Same sort of boss as the arcade one. So that's the Mark III version. Here we go. This is the Master System, the UK Master System version. The Tears of Oopa Oopa. What's cool about this as well is in Japan the Master System had the FM sound chip built in, and what you can actually do in here as well, if let's have a look. Might be an extended oven. Yeah, extended options. You can do things like you can take the sprite limit off, like the Master System had so many sprites you can display. You start to get a bit of a flicker. You can actually turn that off. You can change the clock speed and all that type of thing. Plus, you've got the FM sound, so you can enable the FM sound. So these games got they got a huge amount of options on them. M2 really spent a lot of time getting all the options and everything together on these games. It's weird, like the FM sound chip is technically much better, but because I'm so used to using the PSG sound chip on the Master System, is a lot of the games I actually prefer the PSG sound chip. I don't know why. It was probably just because that's what I heard when I was a kid when I had a Master System. Being my first console I ever had. I saw little 8-bit computers before that, but yeah, I was just used to this sort of sound. So this is the European Master System version, which was really cool. So that's Fantasy Zone 2, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit the machine and I'm going to go back to the main menu. They say this is going to actually flick off now. Say quick change in resolution. So let's go to the classic games. So this is the original arcade Fantasy Zone. So we'll start this up. Same goes with this. You got your resolution options. You got everything else that goes with it. So I've got it on the Mark III version. So I'll go back to the original arcade one. Same here. You know, you got you can do your replays. You got the sound options and various other things. So this is the original arcade one. If I can find. I can't remember which button. I just pressed start. I did go through this before I started and set up all the display options and the buttons and stuff. So it's a really cool game. This game is converted to all sorts of things. Like I said, Fantasy Zone 1 and 2 were actually converted to the NES as well. Or the Famicom. Only in Japan though. I'm not sure if this version came out in America though, the first Fantasy Zone, but 1 and 2 were definitely out in Japan, which is a bit odd, isn't it? The Sega sort of release games on the opposing console. They did the same with the PC Engine, so this came on the PC Engine as well. You would have thought the Sega would have kept it to themselves with their own console. But I say, this is a game you don't very often see in the arcades. The arcade one is really difficult to play because there's no auto fire. And to be honest, this game really needs auto fire. Like if you've seen this in a Japanese arcade, it would have auto fire on it. I think, to be honest, without auto fire, this game's pretty impossible. You just can't fire fast enough. This is one of the weapons. Oh, the boss is coming up now. I like on the bottom it shows you where the bases are. Gotta shoot this guy in the mouth for this better. A weapon was doing me no good. Say, such a brilliant soundtrack and really cool, classic sort of colourful graphics. I'll show you one of the other ones. I'll show you the 7-way. Let's get the 7. The 7-way is a really good weapon, but you can't keep buying it because it gets more and more expensive as you go along. But it's well handy for killing all the beasts. Do love some Fancy Zone music. They released a couple of CD compilation music in Japan. It's basically all the music from all the games. That's really cool, that is. So that's the original arcade run. So if I, same as before, I can go to the System 16, which is the original arcade, and then you got the Master System version. This one doesn't seem to have the Master System one, the UK Master System one anyway, but this is pretty much the same thing. Really love the Master System version of this. Although I do own the NES version, well, the Famicom version of this. Yeah, they were converted by Sunsoft, and to be honest, I think they're actually better than the Master System one. Sunsoft did a fantastic job of converting the games. Not so great job on the second one, but it's still good. So that's the Master System version. There's the first boss. You can see the background's all disappeared and stuff. You can see, you know, quite an inferior machine compared to the arcade, but they did some really nice versions of these games on the Master System. Really nice, colourful graphics as well. I say that's the one thing the Master System was very good at. There was nice, colourful graphics, especially compared to the Famicom at the time. So we'll go back to the main menu again now, and we'll swap games again. I say all these games have got the same sort of options with the displays. Pity we still got that resolution change, but it doesn't matter. Right, so we've done Fancy Zone 2, we've done Fancy Zone. So let's go Fancy Zone Gear. This is the Game Gear version of Fantasy Zone. I say this has been a Game Gear game. It's still got all the video outputs. You can actually, you know, you can output it to 480p if you wanted to with scan lines, which is really good considering the Game Gear screen was nowhere near that resolution. Same sort of things in there, you know, you can record sound test. You got the gallery as well, which is really nice. I say, as far as I know, I think this was a Japanese only release. You got the booklet there. Really nice Game Gear games. That's pretty cool. Right, so here we go. So this is the Game Gear version. What button did I set up for start? Don't think I did. Right, so controller. Repeat, yes, extra one move. Wonder why I can't start that then. I'll scan. Yeah. Scrolling's a little bit dodgy, but it's got a very colourful background. I bet this looked quite nice actually on the Game Gear screen. It is a little bit jerky, this version though, but let's have the laser weapon. So the PC Engine version of this game is rather nice. Yeah. Screen does scroll a little bit weird on the Game Gear version. To be honest, this wouldn't be a version I would go out my way to play. But, you know, it's pretty cool nevertheless. That's the base for that. You got a base somewhere I missed. Aha. Here we go. That's the boss. That was the last base. Ooh, I knew what's coming. Ding, 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 ding. Kill this boss, hopefully. Oh, he takes a fair bit of killing. I don't know what the coins are green. Yeah, so that's the tech now. So that's the Game Gear version. So let's go back to the start screen again. So back to the classic games. So you got Super Fancy Zone now. This was a Sunsoft made Mega Drive game. It's really nice on the Mega Drive. It's got a very fantastic Japanese cover as well. Unfortunately, I've got the British version of this game, original. Which is very, very nice, but the Japanese cover is even nicer. I do own the Japanese cartridge though, somewhere. But this game has got some extras and stuff, and there's basically you can bomb shoot and special weapon, all that. Got some really good music in this game as well. Check the rapid fire on. Do. So the Mega Drive is definitely chucking out some really nice tunes on this. I don't think there's any extra options. You can sound test your gallery. Let's have a look. Let's see if it shows the... yeah, there's the Japanese cover, which is quite nice. It's quite sweet. We've got a slightly different version of it. The British cover is decent, but it's not as quite as nice as the Japanese cover. See, there's the British cover, which is cool as well, but it's not as cool. So I'll start this one up then. So I really do like the Mega Drive version. It's pretty awesome. So it's a surprisingly colourful game for a Mega Drive. I know the Mega Drive, its colour palette wasn't the best at times, but it was pretty cool. If we got the double bombs, no we haven't. I say this has got completely new levels, it's got some new bosses and stuff. The good thing as well is the British version of this doesn't actually go for that much money. The Japanese version I think is a little bit pricey, but you can pick the UK version of this up for reasonably cheap. I did buy mine quite a few years ago, and I'm sure I paid, I'm positive I paid about a £5 for it. But it's probably a lot more than that now, but I don't think it's super expensive. Oh, you are. Here we go. Oh, I forgot he does that. Got pretty funky boss music as well. Let's see if we can kill this boss. What you want to do with these games is try and time your weapon so you get it for the boss. Which is, you know, harder to do at times, but it is handy to have those weapons for the bosses. So I'm going to pick the... I haven't got so many weapons at the moment. Get the laser beam. See, the Mega Drive version has got really nice graphics. Sunsoft did a fantastic job. I will say those Sunsoft games always got very good music. They were pretty masters of getting some fantastic music out of the Mega Drive. So if you do have a Mega Drive, pick this game up, it's class. That's the Mega Drive version, so we're going to have to go back to the title screen again. Right, here we go. Classic collection. Right then, now we got Opa Opa. This is the original Master System game. You think it's going to be a shoot 'em up, but it's a maze game. I think over here they called it Fancy Zone the Maze. I think it was. I think they sort of. It was like supposed to be like the third game, from what I remember. Well, like a Pac-Man clone, I suppose, in some ways, like. You do get weapons, if I remember rightly. So you can actually shoot the enemies. That was like a blue version of the chicken from Flicky. If you go around the mazes picking your weapons and stuff like that up. Get a wing to see if I can complete a level. Hey, get the coins. Just get some more parts. Yeah, that's an XL. So it's quite a cool little sort of Pac-Man-y type sort of maze game that I gotta be honest, I haven't put a lot of time into it. I didn't really bother buying it when I had a Master System, and perhaps I should. So it does seem quite a little interesting game. Like I said, I'm not sure where. I think this was like the third game that came out on the Master System. So don't quote me on that because I could be wrong, but so that is Fancy Zone the Maze, or Opa Opa as it said in here. It does have a Mark III version. That was a UK version then. I didn't actually do the refresh for this one. Dope. So we've changed now. This is the Mark III version. As you see, it's got the FM sound chip here, so does sound quite nice actually. And you got an area select as well. That's different to the UK version. The FM sound chip has got a pretty cool beat to it. Just you can see the subtle differences between the different versions from different countries. Quite an interesting little game. Anyway, that's Opa Opa. So let's quit out. We'll go to the last game on this collection now. This view is getting pretty big. The classic games. So we got Galaxy Protector. As far as I know, this was a game that only came out in Japan. I'm pretty sure it was. I think you needed some paddle joystick or something to play it properly. But you can play it on the analog stick. You can play with the D-pad, but it's a bit awkward. So you've got to protect the planet. You shoot away and you've got to protect Earth. Just a little shooter as such. It looks okay on the analog. It's not bad. Yeah, but I'm sure there was a paddle controller. I do remember like I said, I could be wrong in that, but I'm sure there was some sort of paddle controller. Oh, you ain't happy. Angry Earth. It's a bit weird. You do have to like fully rotate the stick on the DualShock. You've got to use it like going around in a circle. Yeah, you got a different planet now. You got Saturn. He looks at Woodied version of Saturn. The faces are quite cool on the planet. I'd say it's flicking a little bit like that because of the analog stick. I'd say it's quite hard to... You've got to make sure you push the analog stick right out to the side and then rotate it. Oh no! I got killed. I'd say quite a cool little interesting game as well. Pity it never came out here as far as I know. A defense bonus, 100%. Got like a dog's face. Ooh, it's got a beak. Yeah. Oh, it's not a beak, it's a moustache. Strange. It's supposed to be like Mars. Was that a shield? Why not? Do a bit more. It's an interesting little game. It almost looks like it had a little bit of gravity then, didn't it? The stuff, yeah, it does. The stuff sort of going around, rotates around it, sort of like gets sucked in. Like each planet's got slightly different gravity. That being a big one, maybe it's got more gravity. That's quite clever. Never really noticed that about this before. That's quite clever. Come on. Here's that again now, which I think is possibly my shield. Ooh, it's gonna be rotating around with me now. It's gotta be 100%. Perfect. You say you can change what stick you want to use to actually control it as well, and you can control it with the D-pad, but it's a bit weird with the D-pad, to be honest. But anyway guys, that's Galaxy Protector. There is no other version because I'm pretty sure it was Japanese only. Let's have a look in here. Actually, let's have a look at the cover. That's pretty cool artwork. I like that. Yeah, it was a gold cartridge, so it was a Master System in Japan. Ah, there's the paddle controller. Look, that's pretty cool. I'd say that never got released here. There was also that paddle control. There's another game that could be used for. It's like you got these guys on a trampoline. They're springing up and down from a building. You need the paddle controller for that game as well. So let's go back to the title screen. Right guys, so that's the Sega Ages Fantasy Zone Complete Collection. I picked this game up in Tokyo when I was there. I've been wanting it for quite a while and it's quite pricey. I think it goes for about 40 quid. Maybe 40, 50 quid, wherever. I picked it up in Tokyo. I'm pretty sure I paid, I can't remember whether I paid 25 for it and had it for a good deal or paid about 30. I think it worked out for that, but I wanted it, so I picked it up. Really nice game. Very cool. Say what I think of this collection. It's a really nice collection of games. Really, it doesn't have the NES collections game. It doesn't have the PC Engine one, but obviously, I suppose Sega were just going for their own consoles really in the arcade at the time when they did this conversion. But it's got pretty much every version Sega did of the Fantasy Zone games. It's got multiple resolutions. It's got the music. It's got the galleries for each game. You can save your replays. You've got the arcade versions. Like especially, you'd probably pick this up for the Fantasy Zone 2 arcade version. That'd be probably one of the reasons you'd pick this up for. If you love the Fantasy Zone games, I think if you own a PS2 and you can play Japanese games, this is pretty much a must-buy, to be honest, because there's a lot of fun to be had in this collection. The emulation was done by M2, and it's pretty much perfect, as M2 stuff is. Like I say, with the different resolutions, the scan lines and everything, you can tailor this collection to your own needs or your own screens. Like I said, the 240p version works very nice through the FrameMeister. Upscale's very nice, especially if you want to use the scan lines on it as well. But yeah, it's got a hell of a lot of games, hell of a lot of memories from playing these games as a kid on the Master System, playing the arcade versions. Pretty fantastic collection, and I am definitely going to give this a 9 out of 10, because this collection is pretty amazing. I think the only thing that would have been really nice in this collection, considering it's a double DVD, is some arcade replays would have been very nice to have in this collection. There's where it's changed resolution again. Yeah, some arcade replays would have been really nice to have, some like super plays or something. But you know, I can't get anything, I suppose. You know, we've got a pretty nice collection here, nevertheless. So yeah, definitely 9 out of 10 if you love the Fantasy Zone games, or you like the look of the Fantasy Zone games and you've got a PS2. Pick this collection up, it's fantastic. I don't think it's cheap though, so be prepared to be paying about 40 quid for it, possibly from Japan plus postage, or maybe a little more. I'm not sure if it's gone up lately, but you know, if you're into these games, it's well worth picking up. So for you guys, I'll catch you next week with something. Hope you like the review, and get on and play some Fantasy Zone. So see you soon. Ta-da!